Good morning, everyone. We're going to start on the bottom of Yutes, Amud Beis. Maskifla Rav Huna. So Rav says that when something repeats itself by menachos, if you have a repetition, then that means that it's essential. And if there's no repetition, seemingly it's not essential. So Rav Huna asks a question on this idea that if it repeats itself, it's essential. Rav Huna says, Hare melach delo tana beikra u'ma'akva be, but we know that salt is ma'akev, and yet it doesn't repeat itself. So salt doesn't repeat itself, and yet it's ma'akev, but you just told me that in order to be ma'akev, in order to be essential, in which case you'll ruin it if you don't do it, it needs to repeat itself. So how could it be that melach is ma'akev if it doesn't repeat itself? It says in Gemara, Detanya bris melach olamhi. It says bris melach olami, that melach is a bris. Shetehei bris amura b'melach, div Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon are going to agree that there's a special pasuk, even though melach does not repeat itself, there's a special pasuk that says that melach is a bris, it's a covenant, and therefore the covenant is div Rabbi Yehuda that every korban needs melach. That's going to be, even though it doesn't repeat itself, it tells us that every korban needs melach and it's ma'akev. Rabbi Shimon Omer Nemar Kan Bris Melach Olam Hi. Again, they're going to agree, just the source is going to be different. V'Nemar Lahalan Bris Kunas Olam. Kishem she'yevshar lekorbanis below kahuna, kach yevshar lekorbanis below melach. Just like you need to have a kahuna for the korban, you need melach for the korban. So again, it's just whether it's based on the pasuk itself, Bris Melach Olami, is that enough? Or do you need to compare it to another pasuk of Bris Kunas Olam? But both of them agree that melach will be ma'akev, even though there's no repetition of the pasuk about melach by a mincha. It'll still, based on this other pasuk, it'll be ma'akev that you need to have melach by every korban. Says the Gemara, Amar of Yosef, Rav Ketana Didan Sfirale, Da Amar Lo Malach Kasher. So Rav holds like us. Rav who says that what? Rav that we just quoted, who says that you need psukim in order to be ma'akev. So he's going to hold that if there are no psukim, then this is not necessarily going to be enough. And therefore he's going to hold that what? That if you don't use melach, it will not be ma'akev. If there's no repetition, it's not ma'akev. So these two opinions, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon says we don't care that it's not repeated. We have another pasuk that we can use to tell us that you need to use salt. But according to Rav, where there's no repetition over here by melach, by a mincha, according to him, according to him, you will not need, you should, but if you don't use salt, it's still going to be kosher. According to Rav, everybody else will say, no, you need to have salt, even b'diavad. So, Sfir Leidamer lo malach kasher. He's going to go like our Mishnah that says lo malach kasher. What's the problem? We didn't understand lo malach kasher. How did we understand lo malach kasher? Could be that we didn't salt it at all, or it could be what? That a zar salted it and not a kohen. So, Amalei Abayi hachi lo yitzak lami lo yitzak klal lo yitzak kohen elazar hachanami lo malach kohen elazar. So it's an interesting question in the Gemara because we already established, we pointed out, that the Mishnah does not have to be consistent. Remember we said lo yitzak, lo balal. Lo yitzak is talking about a kohen, not a zar. Lo balal is talking about mixing it at all. But again, the Gemara is assuming that it needs to be consistent again at this point. So just like lo yitzak, that you didn't pour the oil, that means you didn't pour it at all. So to lo malach would mean that you didn't pour it at all. Well, the opposite. If lo malach means you didn't pour it, you didn't salt it at all, then lo yitzak would mean that you didn't pour the oil at all. It can't be. We said that lo yitzak means that a kohen didn't pour the oil, but a zar poured it. So maybe lo malach means that you need the melicha, but if a kohen doesn't do it, then it's still going to be kosher if a zar does it. Says Gemara, Amar Lei v'chitala dascha shazar karv l'gabe mizbeach. Do you really think that a zar can go ahead and do the melicha? The melicha is done right near the mizbeach, right before it's put on the mizbeach. Therefore, it's impossible to suggest, and I guess based on what we said before, the Mishnah does not have to be consistent, and therefore when it says, even if it says lo yatzak, it can mean lo yatzak kohen, but a zar, it's still kosher. The end day when it says lo malach, it must mean lo malach klal, like we were saying, and that would be Rav's opinion, that if you don't do melicha, it's still going to be okay. V'hibai saying, or you could say no. You need to have malicha. Or you could say that even Rav agrees that you need to have malicha. It doesn't repeat itself. Once it says bris, then it's going to work. So that's really the way that it comes out. Seemingly it comes out that Rav agrees with Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rav says you need to have a repetition of the pasuk in order to say that it's ma'akev, that it's essential. Therefore, by melach, it seems to not be essential because it doesn't repeat itself. Says the Gemara, no, he would agree that by melach there's another pasuk that says bris, that it's a bris, melach, that every korban needs to have melach, and therefore he would agree that even though there's no repetition by melach, you still need to have. So it comes out according to everybody that melach would be ma'akev by the korbanos. Says the Gemara, v'lo tana beikra, is there really no repetition? You said there's no repetition by melach, therefore you need a separate pasuk because there's no repetition by melach. It clearly says that every korban needs melach, and it repeats it by melach timlach. So now, again, the given is that for now every korban needs melach. Now we're going to learn something else from this specific pasuk. The pasuk says v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach. Any korban mincha needs melach. So does that include every korban? Does that include only korban minchas? Does that include nothing? Does it include everything? Let's see. Says Gemara, Humi be'lei lichadetanya. Ilu nemar korban b'melach shomeani afilu eitzim v'dam shenikru korban. So Gemara says that eitzim, wood that you put on the mizbeach, and the dam that you throw on the mizbeach, those things are referred to throughout the Chumash sometimes as korban. Therefore, if it would have just said, the pasuk would have said, v'chol korban b'melach timlach, any korban needs malicha, that would have included the eitzim and the dam. And that means every single time you would bring wood on the mizbeach, you'd have to salt it first. Anytime you took the dam and you were about to do zrika, you'd have to salt the dam first. Because chol korban b'melach timlach. Says the Gemara, that's why it specifically says, v'chol korban minchascha, talmud lomar mincha, that what? It needs to be like a mincha. In order to need salting, it needs to be like a mincha. Not everything called korban needs to have salt. Anything that's similar to a mincha. V'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach. What's similar to a mincha? So Gemara is going to suggest two possibilities. The main one it suggests is ma mincha miyuchedesh she'acherin ba'in chovala. The mincha causes something else to come with it. What does the mincha cause to be brought because of it? Wood. The mincha itself causes something else. The wood itself doesn't cause anything. Wood doesn't cause anything to be brought. Wood is the byproduct of a mincha. When you bring a mincha, you need wood in order to burn the kamitza, in order to burn the lavona. Therefore, af kol she'acherim ba'in chovala. So when it says korban, any korban, or anything really that is brought on the altar that causes something else to be brought because of it, is going to need melach. Dam doesn't cause anything else to be brought because of it. You take the dam, you do the zrika, there's nothing that needs to be brought on the mizbeach because of the dam. Therefore, it doesn't need to be salted. Eitzim is the actual thing that's being brought, but if I was just bringing eitzim on the mizbeach stam, we'll see on the base for a second, a little bit different, but if I'm just bringing eitzim on the mizbeach stam, I just want to bring eitzim and burn them, I don't need to have other eitzim there. It doesn't cause anything else. So unless you're the cause for other things to be brought on the mizbeach, you don't need melach. So that excludes dam, and that excludes wood. All other korbanos, if you think about it, anytime you have a korban, it needs to be either the whole thing burnt or part of it burnt. And therefore, any other korban that you have, including the korban mincha, whether it's a kamitza which is being burnt or the entire mincha that's being burnt, you always need or you cause wood to be needed on the mizbeach. Therefore, anything that's like mincha, v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach, anything that causes wood to be brought on the mizbeach will need melech.
Every korban needs wood.
Correct. That's why every korban needs malicha. But the point is that the dam doesn't, and eitzim don't. So it specifically excludes dam and eitzim. Dam, which is thrown on the corners of the mizbeach, doesn't cause. You don't need wood on the mizbeach because you're not burning anything. So you don't need wood. When you're pouring the shirayim on the side of the mizbeach, you don't need wood there. Therefore, it specifically excludes wood, because again, wood, if you bring wood, you wouldn't need other wood. And it excludes dam, which doesn't need wood there. But you're right, every other korban, as we'll see, every other korban, it's a prerequisite. Therefore, every other korban will need, and that's why every korban needs melach, the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, ma mincha. Yes, Dal, you had a question? So shemen seemingly would not need, probably would not need it either. Correct. Unless you're pouring shemen, you pour shemen on the oil. No, if you're pouring shemen on the mizbeach, so then it would need. I'm not sure. It's a good question. The Gemara doesn't mention shemen. Ima mincha miyuchedes shemateres. Nesachim we're going to get to. 1 second. You saw the next daf already? Yeah. Ima mincha miyuchedes shemateres. Either way, since this is your second cycle, either way you're in trouble. Because either you said you didn't see it yet, or you forgot it from last cycle. So mamanavshach. Either you definitely saw it last time, or you forgot it. So either way is a problem. Ima mincha miyuchedes shemateres. Av kol shematir avidam shematir. So now the Gemara is going to say, well, eitzim is out. Eitzim I don't have an answer for, but dam I have an answer for. Because if you're going to tell me that we're going to compare it to mincha, well, there's something else about mincha that dam actually is like. In the sense that what is mincha, or the kamitza, let's say, what does the kamitza do? When you bring the kamitza, it's matir, which we had a whole thing about. It's matir, we said, right, it's half a matir, maybe it's the mincha, the comments, and the lavona. We had all this discussion. But it's matir the rest of the mincha to be eaten. You can't eat the rest of the mincha till you bring the komets and the levona. Dam also has this aspect that's similar to a mincha, that dam is matir, the rest of the animal to be eaten and or the emurin to be burnt on the mizbeach. So why are you just saying anything that has wood, anything that requires wood to be brought? Maybe you should compare it to mincha and say, well, also dam should need to have this. Dam should also need to have melach, because at the end of the day, it's a matir, just like mincha is a matir, or the komets is a matir. Says the Gemara, Talmud lomar me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha. So there's a separate pasuk. You're right. Just based on this svara of being like a mincha, it should really need to have melach, dam. But there's a separate pasuk that says me'al minchascha, that you shall not, do not discontinue salt from. That means you must have salt. Where can you not discontinue salt from? Me'al minchascha. Your mincha needs salt, and the Gemara here learns it's excluding what? Dam, which would have been included otherwise. That's what the Gemara says. That from your mincha you shouldn't discontinue salt, but from dam, even though there's a svara to say that dam is like a mincha and it should need salting, me'al minchascha you shouldn't discontinue salt, but you can discontinue, you don't need to put salt on a dam. So you're right, in svara really dam should need melach, but the Torah goes out of its way to specifically exclude dam from needing melach. Yachol te mincha kula te'una melach. So now a separate thing. Now when we're telling me that a melach needs to be put onto a mincha, so now what part of the mincha does it have to be put on? Do you pour it on the entire thing? Says the Gemara, no. Talmud lomar korban, only the korban part. Korban ta'on melach ve'ein mincha kula tuna melach. When it says v'chol korban minchascha, not only do we learn anything like a mincha, but only the korban part of the mincha needs melach. Now what's the korban part of the mincha? The kamitza, which is thrown onto the fire. Ve'ein li ela kometz minayin l'rabba sas levona. How do you know that the levona also needs melach? We know that we salt the levona as well. Says the Gemara, mar ben yisrael levona shekein ba ima b'kli echad. Because the levona comes with the komets in one kli, like we said, and therefore the levona by default needs to have the melach too. Minayin l'rabba says halavona haba b'fnei atzma. So now the Gemara says, okay, very nice. So if levona is with the komets, then I understand it also needs to be salted. But I know that levona maybe seemingly needs to be salted when it's by itself as well. As Rashi says, let's say I make a pledge, harei alai levona. I'm going to bring levona, separate korban levona. How do I know that that needs to be salted? As opposed to every other korban, which is like a mincha. How do I know that the levona needs to be salted? Ulevona abba bibazik. And how do I know that the levona by the lechem apanim, when I take it off, has to be salted? V'haktoras. How do I know that ketoras needs to be salted? Minchas kohen, minchas kohen, mashiach, minchas nesachim. How do I know that all of these minchas, which are not a piece taken out, but they're fully burnt on the mizbeach, how do they know they all have to be salted? Emurei chadas, ve'emurei asham, ve'emurei kachek kadashim, ve'emurei kachim kalim. All of these different parts of the animal, ve'vari ola, and the evarim of an ola, ve'ola sa'of. And the bird, minayin talmud lomar, kol korbanecha takriv melach. So there's a separate pasuk that says, kol korbanecha takriv melach. Now the Gemara is going to ask in just a moment, what do I need the separate pasuk of kol korbanecha takriv melach? What do all these things have? All these things are similar to a mincha in the fact that they require wood. So what are you asking me? Where do I know that levona needs to be melach, needs to be salted? Kol korbanecha takriv melach. Where do I know that a mincha that's fully burnt needs melach? Kol korbanecha, for all your korbanos, takriv melach. What are you talking about? We just finished saying that the other pasuk, which says v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach, anything similar to a mincha, in the sense that what? That it requires wood to be brought. All of these things require wood to be brought, because they're all, like Alan said, they're all brought on the mizbeach. Therefore, what do I need a separate pasuk which says v'akol korbanecha mak takriv melach? So the Gemara is going to ask that question in just a moment. But at the end of the day, l'maisa, whatever the source is, whether it's akol korbanecha takriv melach or the source that we had before, of the chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach, every korban needs to have melach with it, including the levona, including the Torah, all of these things. The only thing that's excluded is going to be dam, and that's based on another pasuk, which is the pasuk that says me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha. Amar mar ein li ela komets. Minayin l'rabba says halavona. So Mar goes back and says, we're only the komets. How do I know the levona? Mar ben yisrael levona shekein ba ima b'kli achad. Says the Gemara, it's asking the question on that, but it's really an extension of the entire question I just mentioned. V'ha'amar ma mincha miyuchedesh acherim bayin chovala. I don't understand. What do you need so many psukim for? You have the first pasuk, v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach. That's enough. Anything that's like a mincha is going to need melach. What do I need another pasuk? What do I need to tell me that the reason levona needs melach is because it comes with the komets? No, that's not why. Because it's like a mincha, it requires wood to be brought in order to burn it. What do I need to tell me that all these other things need the pasuk kol korbanecha takriv melach? What do you mean? They're v'chol korban minchascha. They're like a mincha. Says Gemara, you're reading the whole thing wrong. Says Gemara, listen to this. And this is a lot of lumdus. It's beautiful. Hachi kamar. Ema korban klal. What did we have? The first pasuk. The first pasuk said v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach. And we learned that means anything that's similar to a mincha. But says Gemara, it's not so pashut. Because listen to it for a second. V'chol korban. What does korban do? Klal. Any korban b'melach timlach. That's a klal. That's a general. V'chol korban minchascha. What's the mincha? That's a prat. Mincha is a prat. Klalu prat. What's the rule? Klalu prat. Eina b'chlal ela masha b'prat. Mincha in midiach vinilo. Pasha pshat. You're sort of misconstruing. V'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach. Don't tell me anything similar to a mincha. Klalu prat v'chol korban klal minchascha prat b'melach timlach. What needs melach? Only a mincha. Not anything similar to a mincha. Only a mincha. Prat after a klal means only the mincha, not like you're learning everything else. So where did you get this idea of everything else? From the other pasuk. What's the other pasuk? Hadar Amar. That's why we need the other pasuk. Al kol korbanecha takriv melach. It sounded like the way the Gemara presented it was confusing, but now the Gemara is summing it all up. Al kol korbanecha chazar u klal, klal u prat u klal, el eina tadan ela ke'ein haprat. That's the difference. When you have klal u prat, you have to do specifically the prat. Klal u prat u klal, you do similar to the prat. That's what the extra klal at the end is doing. Klal u prat is telling me you might think it's the whole thing. It's only specifically the prat. So what is klal u prat? If you think about it, we never really think about it like this. We just take it for granted. Klal u prat u klal. That's really what it means. Klal u prat, specifically the prat. Only that thing. That and only that. Klal u prat u klal, we can open it up to other things, but it has to be similar to the prat. It doesn't have to be only the prat, but similar to the prat. So originally, if we just had our first pasuk of the pasuk of v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach, that would tell me mincha and only mincha gets melach. Now when you say v'chol korban minchascha b'melach timlach, and now you have another pasuk al kol korbanecha takriv melach, klal uprat in the first pasuk, klal in the second pasuk, klal uprat uklal is similar to a mincha. What's similar to a mincha that requires melach? Well, if it's similar to the mincha that it requires wood to be brought on the mizbeach, then it's going to need melach. Or, as we'll see, or if it's similar to mincha that it's a matir, it needs melach. Why doesn't dam need melach? It's a matir, because there's a separate pasuk, which is the last pasuk we brought, that what? Al minchascha v'lo al damcha. That's the Gemara's entire thing in a nutshell. Says the Gemara, Ma'apra mifura shacherim ba'in chovala, afko shacherim ba'in chovala. Acherim de ba'in chovala maniu. We've been taking it for granted, but what is this thing that a mincha requires you to bring? Eitzim. Therefore, af kol eitzim. Therefore, anything that needs eitzim to be brought, which is every korban. Ema lavona v'aisi dam teikon nesachem. This is the hardest 5 words in the entire. Well, it's not 5 words, that's why it's not hard. But it's the hardest 6 words in the entire daf, even though it makes sense. I'll make it sound simple, but it's not so pashut. Ema levona va'aisi dam teikon nesachem. Very interesting. You're assuming that anything like a mincha, that a mincha requires it to be brought, so anything similar. So what does a mincha require? A mincha requires the mincha requires eitzim to be brought, so anything else that requires eitzim to be brought will also need melach, which is every other korban, except for dam, and eitzim itself. Says the Gemara, but there's something else. If you think about it really, that the mincha doesn't just require eitzim to be brought, the mincha requires levona to be brought. The mincha, when you bring the mincha, you need levona to be brought. So it could be anything that requires anything else, not just wood. Anything that requires anything else to be brought should need what? Should need melach. So dam's not exactly the same, but dam does require something to be brought. Dam doesn't require wood to be brought, so it doesn't fit into that category. But if you extend it and say that it's similar to a mincha if it requires not only wood to be brought, but levona to be brought, well, dam doesn't require levona to be brought, but if you extend it to say, well, anything that requires anything else to be brought besides for wood, so in the case of mincha, it also requires levona to be brought, but what does dam require to be brought? Dam, as the Gemara says, requires sometimes nisachim to be brought. Sometimes you have a nisachim that has to be brought with the dam. You have to pour something with the dam. Therefore, one can say that dam falls into this category of requiring something else to be brought with it. If it falls into that category, then it should need melach as well. Says the Gemara, no, the nisachim that you pour doesn't come because of the blood. It comes because of the amorin that you're burning on the mizbeach. My taima, what's the reason that it's more similar to amorin? Listen to this. Achilo shtia. Because the mizbeach is very hungry. So the mizbeach is hungry, so you give it what? You give it amorin. That's the achila. What's the shtia that you give it? The nesachim, not the dam. The nesachim. So therefore, the nesachim is the shtia, the drink. So you give it a little bit of food, the amorin, the bones, and then you give it a drink, which is the nesachim. So you clearly see that it's coming, that the nesachim are coming because of the amorin and not because of the blood. Says the Gemara, but there is a similarity. Maybe you can argue ad derabba kapara v'simcha. Maybe you can argue that when you bring the amorin, that what? Maybe you can argue kapara v'simcha. Maybe really it's not that the nesachim are coming because of the amorin. It's not that the amorin are the food and the nesachim are the drink. Maybe the dam is the kapara. We know the dam's the kapara. What happens once you get a kapara? You're happy. So the nesachim is the happiness. So maybe the nesachim are coming. It's not a matter of achilu shtiya. It's a matter that the nesachim are coming after the dam. Says the Gemara, Ella what? Ella levona ba'ima b'kliyachad. Nesachim ein ba'in b'kliyachad. So he says no. The reason that it's going to be a problem is because even if you say that a mincha is similar because a mincha causes something else to come, but it would only be, besides for wood, it would only be something that it causes to come with it. Therefore, the mincha, which the levona gets put into that actual kli, one can argue it's coming with it. But dam and nesachim don't come into one kli. Therefore, it's too much of a stretch. Again, going back to what we said before, just to simplify it, it ends up coming out that the reason that dam is excluded is because it has to be something that comes with, or something that requires wood to be brought on the mizbeach with it, which excludes dam. Says the Gemara, one second, aval eitzim ki hechi de mitkashru b'mincha hachi mitkashru b'kulu karbanos. Like I said, eitzim at the end of the day comes out, just like the mincha requires eitzim, so too anything that requires eitzim will be like a mincha, and that's why any korban, besides for, again, dam and eitzim, anything else, which is going to require wood because it's going to be burnt, at least part of it's going to be burnt, anything else will require to have melach as well.
There are menachos that don't have levona, right? Like the minchas.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine, but those menachos are being burnt on the mizbeach and they're requiring eitzim to come, and therefore that's another, right? The regular prerequisite is that it requires eitzim, therefore those are going to get salted because of the eitzim. But the point is that even if you wanted to say that dam should be included because it's similar to levona, well, it's not similar to levona. Because levona is coming in one kli, dam and nesachim are not coming in one kli. Therefore, don't tie into the dam and nesachim are the equivalent of mincha and levona. Throw that out. Therefore, we're back to how we started. That, again, like we said, anything that requires wood to come with it will need melach. Ve'ema maha prat mefura shacherim bain chovelo materes af kol shacherim bain chovelo materes umay nihu levona ba bibazik in deshayu lachem of midiachmini lo. So now the Gemara says something else. The Gemara says that you said before that what's characteristics of a mincha? Two things really. A mincha requires other things to be brought with it, i.e. wood, but a mincha is also a materes. So you said what? You said, well, all of the other korbanos fit into the category that they require wood to be brought. Most of those korbanos are not matereses for anything. They're not matir anything but themselves. So most of the other korbanos, we said the reason that they need melach is because they're similar to mincha in the sense that what? They're similar to mincha in the sense that they require wood to be brought with them. We said but dam is also similar to a mincha in a different sense, that it's a matir. It's matir, the amorin, and the other things to be eaten. We said, well, we have a separate pasuk that excludes dam. But the Gemara backs up a second. Again, there's a lot of lumdus here. The Gemara says, well, wait a second. Okay, I understand that dam is excluded, but maybe we should exclude all the other korbanos. Because maybe if it needs to be similar to a mincha to require melach, maybe it shouldn't be either or, that it has either this characteristic or that characteristic. And therefore, these korbanos have this characteristic that it requires wood, but not that characteristic that they're matirs. And dam has this characteristic that it's a matir, but not this characteristic that it requires wood. And again, dam is excluded for another reason. But maybe in order to need melach, it should need both. Maybe it should have to require wood to be brought with it, and it should have to be a matir. Well, all those other korbanos are not matirim. Therefore, you should throw them all out. You should say that none of them need melach. What would need melach if you need to have both of the what needs wood? What requires wood? And at the same token is a matir? Well, two things. Well, really one thing. The levona that comes with the bazikin. The levona by the lechem apanim. You need wood to then burn the levona. And when you burn that levona, it's matir, the lechem apanim. So that has both. Therefore, you can argue that's the only thing that's similar to a mincha in both aspects. Therefore, the levona, and only the levona of the lechem apanim should need melach. and the kamitza, which is pashup shad, ve'akol, right, on the korban minchascha. But maybe all these other korbanos that you just mentioned should not need melach, because they're not similar to a mincha in the sense that they have one aspect similar, but they're not similar in the sense that they're not matirin. Says the Gemara, mi de'itzrech me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha miklal dahanach kulu asa b'chatzad. Fascinating. Beautiful, beautiful svara. Says the Gemara, you're confusing me, and you're confusing yourself. Says the Gemara, here's the pshat. What did I tell you? I told you anything similar to a mincha needs melach. What was similar to a mincha? Anything that needs wood. We said, well, there's other things that are similar to a mincha. Anything that what is a matir, like dam. Says the Gemara, we have a separate pasuk that excludes dam. Let me ask you a question, says the Gemara. If in fact it's like you're suggesting now that you need both to be a matir and to require wood, what do I need a separate pasuk to exclude dam for? Dam is a matir, but it doesn't require wood. The fact that I need a separate pasuk to exclude dam from melach shows me that had it not been for that pasuk, even though dam only has one aspect that's similar to a mincha, that would have been enough to require melach. Lamdus. So since it had one aspect that was similar, i.e. it's a matir, that would be enough to require melach. Therefore, I need a separate pasuk by dam to say, even though you might think it needs melach, it doesn't need melach because of a separate pasuk. Me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha. But what that proves, the fact that dam needs its own pasuk to exclude it, shows that if it has either or, not both, if it has either or, then it's going to need melach. And therefore, if it's a matir, i.e. dam, it's going to need melach. Oh no, wait a second, dam has a separate pasuk. Or if it requires wood to be brought with it, which is every other korban, then it's going to need melach. And that's how the Gemara comes out. Beautiful, right? Okay. Says the Gemara.
Does anything not need, what doesn't need melach?
So that's what I'm saying, dam. Sounds like we're excluding dam. Is the only thing we're excluding right now. Dam doesn't need melach, and then we have to look into the doctor when he says shemen. But I think shemen is brought. I think shemen probably requires wood at some point to be brought on.
You don't bring dam just by itself. Dam is always...
No, but the point is that the dam that you're doing the zrika with, you have this pile of dam and you're about to do the zrika. If it wasn't for that pasuk of me'al minchascha, you'd have to pour some salt into the dam and then do the zrika. We're saying no, just like the kamitza. It's not so crazy. You have the kamitza. So you take the kamitza. Right? We always think about salting when you want to eat the animal, but we're saying that you have the kamitza, which is going to be burnt. It's just flour and oil, and you have to actually take melach and throw it on there before you put it onto the mizbeach. It's kind of like
what I'm saying, but dam is only part of a process where melech is already being used. So why would you do it twice within that same process?
But it's not. But the dam itself is not being melacht. It's not being salted. So Gemara is saying that the dam itself should be salted.
It's 4 steps process, and part of that process, melech is already being used in that 4 steps.
But where is it being used? It's being used only in the watzim. It's being used on the rest of the korban, but it's not being used on the dam. You have this korban in front of you. You have the meat. You have the blood. So the Gemara is saying that you would have thought that just like you need to salt the meat, you need to salt the blood.
Separately?
Yeah, that's what the Gemara was suggesting the entire time. But the Gemara is suggesting the entire time, you have the meat, you have the dam, you're about to do zwika of the dam, you had the Kabbalah, now you have the meat, you need to do zwika, you need to do melach, you need to put melach on the thing before you burn it, and before you eat it, obviously, for a separate reason, but you have to do melach before you burn it. Now, lemaisa, you have to go ahead, and you think you have to do it on the dam as well, says the Gemara, you don't have to do it on the dam. Zok the Gemara. Amar Mar. Me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha. So now the Gemara said that pasuk specifically excludes dam. The Gemara says, I understand. If you're telling me that don't discontinue the melach by a mincha, you can discontinue it by dam. But if you're telling me don't discontinue it by a mincha to exclude something else, so why am I excluding dam? Why don't I say to exclude the amorin? And maybe those things don't need melach. Says the Gemara, why do you exclude, right? You have a choice now. You basically told me that dam should be included because it's a matir. All the other karbanos, let's say the amorin of the other karbanos should be included because what? Because they require wood. So now we have one pasuk that's saying me'al minchascha, only the mincha needs and not something else. Well, you can exclude one of those two things. You could either exclude dam from the something else, or you can exclude. So the Gemara is going to say, well, it's a numbers game. The amorin are similar to a mincha in more ways than dam is similar to a mincha. 5 versus 2 or 6 versus 2. Let's see. How are amorin, how are the limbs and the pieces of the animal similar? Ve'ema me'al minchascha v'lo me'al avirecha. And therefore you would exclude the avarim from elach. Mistaber avarin havalei liribuye, because they're similar in different ways. Shekain. First of all, acherin barin chovala kemosa. That again, similar to the mincha, it's going to require wood. Now, dam on it is going to have on its side that what? That it's a matir. So those two things are going to cancel each other out. But what else is similar? Ishim kamosa. We know that the Avarim need fire, just like the mincha needs fire. Dam does not need fire. Bachutz kamosa. We know that the Avarim are burnt on the outer altar, like the mincha is, as opposed to dam, which sometimes is thrown on the inner altar. Nosar kamosa, tuma kamosa, me'ila kamosa. All these things can apply to the Avarim as well. If you leave them over and you eat them, you can get kares. If you're tuma when you eat them, you can get kares. You can have me'ila if you claim that you're going to go ahead and you're going to get hanaf from kodesh. These things don't apply to dam. You're not allowed to necessarily touch it when you're tameh. You're not necessarily allowed to leave it over. You're not allowed to be ma'oel it. But if you are, none of these halachas apply that you're going to get kares by dam. Adarabba dam havilei l'ribushikin matir, like we said, kemosa. It's similar. And also nifsal b'shkia sachama kemosa. There is another thing which dam is more similar to a mincha. We know that the kemitza needs to be burnt by shkia. The dam needs to be thrown by shkia. The emorin can be burnt the entire night. Hence tfilas marv. But at the end of the day, what do you see? You have 5 or 6 versus 2. Therefore, says the Gemara, hanach nefishin. There's more comparisons there. For if you're going to exclude one thing from a mincha, it's going to be excluding the dam and not the emorin. Says the Gemara, Amar Mar, Shomea niafilu eitzim v'dam shenikru korban. So in the very beginning of today, we suggested on the top of Chaf Amud Aleph that ilu nemar korban b'melach shomea niafilu eitzim v'dam shenikru korban. That eitzim and dam are called korban, and therefore we said mincha to exclude things that are similar to a mincha. But you see that eitzim is called a korban. So it says in Gemara, there's another opinion here. Until now, what have we excluded throughout today? Bottom line, what have we excluded from melach? We've excluded 2 things, eitzim and dam. Excluded those 2 things. Eitzim is not like mincha at all, and dam is specifically excluded by another pasuk, me'al minchascha v'lo me'al damcha. Even though it's similar that it's a matir, we're going to exclude it, right? Those are the 2 things that do not need melach. You don't salt the eitzim before you put them on, and you don't salt the dam before you throw it. Says the Gemara, there's another opinion that says actually you have to salt the eitzim. What does that mean? Says the Gemara, Shamani afilu eitzim v'dam shenikru korban, because it's called a korban. Man shamasei de'amar eitzim ikra korban. Who calls eitzim a korban? Rebbe. Listen to what Rebbe says. LeRebbe mi baye ba'u melach. According to Rebbe, eitzim actually need melach. What does that mean? Says the Gemara, Detanya, korban melamed shemisnadrin eitzim. According to Rebbe, if I pledge to bring a korban, I can actually bring wood as that korban. V'kama, how much do I have to bring? Shnei gizar, and 2 blocks of wood. V'chein over v'agorolas hipalnu korban eitzim. I can actually bring a korban made out of wood. Rabbi Omer, eitzim korban minchahein, u'teunin melach, u'teunin agash. Now, it doesn't sound like you have to salt wood when you're just using the wood to burn another korban. But when you're using eitzim itself, that means dam, which is part of the zrika process, you never have to salt. But if you're actually using eitzim as a korban, you need to salt it, which makes sense, because again, according to this, it requires wood to be brought. You need other wood to be brought to burn this wood, seemingly, even though you don't really. But you're going to put this wood on top of other wood, seemingly. But the chiddush of Rebbe is that wood can be used as a korban. And not only can it be used as a korban, that's the korban. Not only can it be used as a korban, it can be used as a korban mincha, which is weird. How are you going to do the kemitza with wood? Says the Gemara, v'amar Rava l'divrei Rebbe eitzim te'unin kemitza. If you bring the eitzim, again, we don't necessarily pass like this, but if you bring the eitzim as the mincha, somehow, instead of flour and oil, you bring wood. You'd have to cut it up into pieces, similar to the baked mincha. It's not so crazy. The baked mincha, we said you have to break off pieces and then take the crumbs as a kemitza. So this would be taking, hopefully, I don't know, you're not going to get splinters, but you'd have to take a whole thing of wood. That's what he said? Oh, yeah, we're starting to think alike. So he goes ahead, and you'd have to take little pieces of wood as a kemitza and burn it. U'teunin hagasha, which we said is bringing it to the southwest corner of the mizbeach. From Rav Divrei Rebbe, eitzim tunin kemitza. Rav Papa Divrei Rebbe, eitzim tzrichin eitzim. And according to Rebbe, when you bring eitzim, you're going to need other eitzim as well to go ahead and burn it on. So says the Gemara, Sami mikan eitzim, you're right. According to Rebbe, you would take out Amar Mar Shomea Ani, that dam is nikru korban, and we're going to exclude dam. But according to Rebbe, which we don't necessarily pass on, according to Rebbe, ein chanami. Eitzim is just like every other korban, and just like every other korban needs melach, because again, it requires eitzim to be brought with it. So too eitzim, if it's used as a korban, and it can even be used as a korban mincha, according to Rebbe, it will require eitzim, other eitzim. So now you have one set of eitzim that are just brought as the wood, which is for every other korban. Now instead of putting now instead of putting animals on top, you're putting eitzim on top. So you're burning eitzim on top of eitzim, and that will require, and therefore that's eitzim. As silly as it sounds, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take melach, you're going to sprinkle it on the eitzim. But again, it's no different if you think about it than sprinkling melach on flour and oil, or sprinkling melach on a random animal. Again, you're not salting it because you're eating it. You're salting it to burn it. We're not talking about the salting that we classically do to eat, to get the blood out. This is just salting it because God said before you put it on the mizbeach hakol korban chatak b'melach. So one can say that it's ridiculous to salt anything. So it's saying, Rebbe is saying that you go ahead and you salt eitzim just like you salt everything else.
But when do you bring eitzim just as a korban?
If you want to. Stam, you want to bring a korban eitzim. You want to bring a korban. People are menadiv eitzim. You don't want to bring an animal. It's much easier to bring a wood.
We're on a schedule, but this family is for this and this day, they brought eitzim.
Yes, you want to bring eitzim, you bring eitzim. Says the Gemara. Now, I'm not sure that, again, according to him, we'd have to think about it. I'm not sure you could bring eitzim as a chatas or as an ola or whatever it is, but you just want to bring a korban, stam to Hashem, you could bring eitzim. Says the Gemara, sami mikan eitzim. Sami means to remove. Therefore, remove from the list of things that are not going to need melach eitzim. Ve'ela kra l'ma'ute mai. So what does that mean? V'chol korban min chascha b'melach timlach. So that includes dam. So that excludes dam. Ilam ute dam me'al min chascha nafka. We're going to end here, but the Gemara says basically now we have one other problem. Because now you said ve'al min chascha. What did we say? We said v'chol korban min chascha b'melach timlach. The korban, which is similar to a mincha b'melach timlach. Now what's come out of today's daf is that everything, all korbanos, and even eitzim, need melach. What's the only thing we said that's excluded today from that pasuk, ve'al korban min chascha b'melach timlach, is dam. So what do I need another pasuk now to tell me me'al min chascha velo me'al damcha? The only thing that's already been excluded from the first pasuk is dam. What do I need a second pasuk to tell me me'al min chascha, which excludes what? The only thing it excludes, we said at this point, is dam. Therefore, we have two psukim which are basically telling me the same thing. You have one pasuk telling me that everything needs melach except for dam, and you have another pasuk that says that don't discontinue melach from a mincha and anything similar to mincha. What can you discontinue melach from? Dam. We have to figure out why we need both of these psukim. Have a wonderful day.